Good evening and welcome to the 21st episode of Leadership Conversations in the Development Sector. The social impact sector is full of passionate leaders with innovative outlooks on the world's greatest problems. Our leadership conversations focus on the unique insights offered by these leaders as they share their experiences and move the development sector forward. Our host, Go Barefoot, is an interactive web portal dedicated to the social sector. It brings together individuals, NGOs, NPOs, and the CSR arms of organizations with the mandate of creating a one-stop information website for both networking and knowledge sharing. We are supported by Catalyst, an NGO which has been preparing young women for leadership roles to create equality in opportunities and bridge the gender gap. We are also supported by Third Sector Partners, India's only executive search firm exclusively for the development sector. Our guest today is one of the leading lights in the development sector. I would like to extend a warm welcome to Priya Kapadia, Head Marico Innovation Foundation. Marico Innovation Foundation is a not-for-profit initiative by Marico Limited. It was founded with a vision to nurture disruptive innovations in India. Over the past 9 years, Priya has conceptualized multiple programs that support innovators in their journey towards creating real and measurable impact. Her repertoire includes sector and challenge-specific programs in the form of #Innovate to Cultivate, which supports innovation in agriculture, and more recently, the #Innovate to Beat COVID in response to the pandemic. She has also played a crucial role in transforming the Foundation's flagship programs, Innovation for India Awards, which is a benchmark awards platform, and the Scale Up program, which has helped over 30 innovators to scale. Priya harnesses her expertise and experience to bring together experts and thought leaders across fields to come together for the unified purpose of creating an innovative ecosystem that can empower innovators and help them to make a difference. Priya has nearly 20 years of experience in business planning, brand management, promotions, and marketing operations. She has also extensive experience in advertising, media marketing, and financial services. Before joining Marico Innovation Foundation, Priya has worked with organizations like Bennett Coleman, Citicorp Finance India, Citibank, and Rediffusion. In conversation with Ms. Priya is Shital Kakkar Mehra, leadership expert and executive presence coach for CEOs. Shital has trained over 75,000 professionals across Asia and has personally coached over 1,000 CXOs in the past 2 decades. She has conducted workshops for diverse organizations across Asia and has been invited as a speaker by leading B schools and professional associations. She is a best-selling author, and her latest best-selling book, Executive Presence, The Poise Formula for Leadership, is India's first research-based formula on the leadership skill. Shital is an active philanthropist and a social entrepreneur. I heartily welcome you, Priya, and over to you, Shital.
Thank you, Anjali. Thank you, and welcome to the session, Priya. We look forward to hearing your views.
Super delighted to be here, Shital. Super delighted.
Thank you. So I'm going to start with my first question. You've had a very interesting journey. You worked for several years in the corporate world, in financial services and advertising, and then you moved to the innovation and social impact sector. So please share with our listeners your personal journey in this sector, and of course, how you reached this position of leadership. Also at this stage, what are your aspirations as a leader? So a very composite question.
I think it'll take an entire hour. So Shital, my personal DNA, my DNA is that I'm a learner. I like to do different things. I like to try different things. I like to build, operate, transfer. I'm always in the quest for learning. So if you look at my career, I've never stayed in a sector, in an industry for more than 4 years. So I was in advertising for 4 years, banking for 4 years, media for 4 years. And then at that point in time, after about 12, 13 years of experience, I had the sense of, figuring out what next. And, I was really bored of marketing, and I was trying to understand, how do I accentuate my learning journey? And it was all about me at that point in time. And this opportunity arose, and there was this role available. And at that point in time, when I joined about almost 9 years ago, Shital, there was not much about MIF. MIF was doing something, but really was not in place in the way it is today, thanks to the teams that have worked so hard to ensure we are where we are. I said to myself, hey, look, I'm trying something new. If I don't like something, if I don't like what I'm going in for, I'll leave in 6 months and go back to, I had 2 other roles in my hand. And I said, I'll go back there and figure out, it's not a big deal. I'll figure out my life. And I gave myself 6 months in this role. And that was almost 9 years ago. So that is my journey of reaching here. It wasn't happenstance, but it was part of my dilemma of not being able to enjoy a role for more than 3-4 years, or an industry for 3-4 years. Now I came in here and I realized that this is a completely different world, Shital. All that I had learned in the first 12 years and what I've learned in the next 9 years are 2 different worlds altogether. Innovation is something which is the DNA of Marico, the DNA of MIF. I'd never heard this word in the first 12 years of my life. It was all about business. It was all about creativity, sure, but not about innovation. And so my journey when I began over here in this organization, it was actually a lot about learning again before I could give back to organizations and give back to people. So I think my next 4 years, 5 years that I was in this organization, I actually learned much more than we gave back as an organization. And then this role actually enables you to meet so many new people, whether it's entrepreneurs, whether it is social change makers, whether it is, Mr. Mariwala's peers. Even working with Mr. Mariwala, you're forced to unlock whatever, has been locked in your mind or has been typecast as, I know it. Everything suddenly goes from I know it to, I'm not sure whether I know it anymore. And that unlocks a completely new journey for you as a leader, as a professional, and as a leader. And I think that's what my journey has been over the last 9 years with MIF. It's been a lot of unlearning and relearning, because with innovation, you cannot stick to a stance. Everything can change today. Everything can change tomorrow. And coupled with the fact that, the entrepreneurial world is showing you that day in and day out, right? What was relevant yesterday is not relevant today, may not be relevant tomorrow. Today's problems are getting solved tomorrow, but probably creating newer problems. So how do you keep thinking differently? How do you keep ensuring that you stay, relevant or you stay useful to the ecosystem is something that I think I have learned over the last 9 years in this role. And I think that is my big give back to anybody who, whether it's my team, whether it's my partners that I work with, whether it's the organization. I think we're very good at certain things as people. We're very good at finding solutions to problems. We're very good at figuring out how to do things. We're very good at even understanding an ecosystem and understanding things. But I think the ability to go into a room saying that all I know is I know nothing is such a revelation, Shital, to yourself. And if you are able to imbibe that with people around you, whether it's your team, whether it's your partners, I think it's one of the biggest gifts any leader can give their teams. Because when you have a team like that, which is searching for new things and not believing that they know it all, it kind of unlocks the next level of innovation. I see this a lot with entrepreneurs, but not so much in the corporate world. And I think that is what, and one more thing before I hand it over to you. I think what I've never done in my first 12 years that I'm doing in the next 9 years is pushing everybody that we work with, whether it's partners, whether it's organizations, whether it's event agency, if it's for an awards program, whether it's entrepreneurs, is how innovatively, how are you doing things differently? It's very easy to do things the right way, but differently. Like the same awards program, how can I change it? The same scale-up program, how can I add more value? How can I be more meaningful? Why should we say it the way we should? Why can't we do it a different way? Is there a different way of doing it? A more efficient way, a more a more nicer way. It doesn't have to be efficient, right? So thinking everything just because it's done before should not be repeated in the same way is something that I think as a leader, I hope to keep getting people to think differently, because then business will happen, work will happen, impact will happen.
Superb. In fact, I agree with you. I second that. I've seen you interact with entrepreneurs pre-COVID, and been with you on multiple meetings with young social innovators. And yes, your ability to think, your ability to listen very effectively, and your childlike enthusiasm was amazing. So I'm going to ask you the next question, which I'm sure a lot of people who have seen you, met you, would also agree, that what really motivates you, Priya, and how do you cascade this motivation into your work as a leader?
It's damn difficult to answer this, Shital, because I myself don't know I don't know what motivates me. I don't have a Monday morning blue. And the moment I have the Monday morning blues, I probably leave the role and go to something else. Because I personally believe that either you're passionate or you should go. There's nothing in between. I'm a very this or that kind of a person. And for me, I think new ideas, new conversations with people, interesting ways of doing things, ability to roll your sleeves and do something, ability to think differently. Youth completely, if you look at my team, you've met my team. Nobody above 32 is a part, maybe 35 today is a part of the team. Bring that energy of the youth, learning from them. And like I said, I'm a learner by nature, right? So bringing that learning skills and wanting to soak in things from people, I think, is what motivates me. Whether I'm working alone at home, or whether I'm working with my team at office, doing something different, doing something new is what motivates me. And that, I think, is what I bring to the table with my team and with, like I said, with everybody. How do we do things differently? How do we stay motivated? And I think it's very easy to get demotivated because, it's easy for me to stay motivated. I tell people what to do and I'm like telling them, we should do this. They're doing the work, So yeah. I think bringing in that empathy to understand that, it can get, you could get, I think empathy is another thing that I think is very important for leaders, to be able to understand that, you were that person a few years ago. And so, I don't think you should bring in your years of experience and forget that, when 20 years ago, when I was a management trainee, what was I going through? And, I was lucky to have bosses who could understand me. And I just hope that I'm a leader that can do the same and, being able to inspire people to bring in their best every day. And I also feel that Shital, if you bring in your best, it's very, what shall I say? It's very easy to inspire others. What's the word I'm trying to find? It's contagious. It's really, in a good way, not in the COVID way. It's really contagious.
Yeah, it is contagious. Your energy, enthusiasm is very contagious. I would agree. And I agree with you that leadership is about enthusiasm. It conveys passion. And you brought in a very beautiful word, empathy, which pre-COVID was never spoken about in the corporate world. But today we expect all leaders, regardless of whichever world they come from, to be empathetic. So I'm going to move on to the next question, which is about Marico Innovation Foundation, which says that they're going to create a positive social, economic, and who are going to create a positive social, economic, and environmental impact. MIF, of course, aims to inspire, involve, and impact the entrepreneurial landscape of the country, which is a very big agenda. And yes, they've stuck to it and delivered on that. Your work, of course, involves meeting entrepreneurs who lead startups which focus on innovation. So tell our listeners about what you look for when you're evaluating these startups and speaking to these entrepreneurs before making any investments.
So Shital, firstly, I'll talk to you about what we do at MIF. We have 3 programs. And I think you're talking about our flagship program, which is the Scale Up program, where we work with entrepreneurs. And our agenda is we pick up entrepreneurs from annual revenue of 1 to 10 crores. And our agenda and our promise to the entrepreneurs is that we work with them over the next 3 to 4 years and until they hit 100 crores. So the journey from 1 to 100 is where we want to step in, because we feel We don't understand the incubation space. We don't understand the pre-1 crore. We don't know how to paper to, product is something we're not good at. Beyond 100 crores, I think a lot of entrepreneurs can fly, and they don't need hand holding. So the toddler to teen, or 1 to 100, is where we're very excited about, and that's the journey we work with. Interestingly, we don't fund a single organization. We don't give grants. We don't invest. We in fact take a nominal fee of 25,000 at the beginning of the engagement, just to make sure that the entrepreneur is
committed,
is as committed as we are, right? And then we work with them for 3 to 4 years. And we've in the past worked with organizations that have come to us at 4 crores and are now doing really well, way beyond 200 crores. Organizations that have come to us at 1 crore and should be soon hitting 100 crores. So we've got a lot of organizations in our portfolio. Currently, we're at 18 organizations, and we'll be working with 30 organizations by next year. So if our ambition, and our model is deep-rooted mentoring. We work very closely with entrepreneurs and solve challenges that are being faced by the organization in a very systemic manner at the functional level. And at the strategic level, we help with strategic visioning, because we feel that a combination of a strategic direction combined with functional efficiency is what takes the organization, plods it ahead in its growth path. And that's what we want to focus on. So we roll our sleeves and we work closely with them. Now, hear what I'm saying. I'm saying we are promising you 1 to 100. We're promising, we are hoping to work with you until you hit 100 crores. So we're promising 3 to 4 years. We're saying we don't want money from you, barring 25,000. We're saying we're not going to take stakes from you. So the first thing that we expect from our entrepreneurs is full-fledged commitment from them. We work with the founding team and their next level team to ensure that they stay committed to our journey, and they're as committed as we are. Initially, we had organizations that we were so passionate about, but they were not so passionate. So I think we come up the learning curve, and we now have a great set of organizations with us who understand our energy and give the energy back with their commitment. The second thing that we look for in entrepreneurs or the innovation or the startup is that the innovation is new to the country, if not new to the world, and can add significant, is trying to solve one of the country's problems that we're facing. So whether it's plastic, whether it's med tech, whether it is clean tech, whether it is ag tech, whether it is COVID, whatever we do, right? We want to find organizations that are adding value to the country. And we want to work with those organizations. So it has to be new to the country, innovation. It has to be completely disruptive. It should have a competitive moat. It should have a market. It should be addressing a market. And it should be solving for some social problem that the country is facing, which basically is everything that a VC would look for in a startup, but bringing in the social angle. So maybe everything that a social impact investor would look for, but adding the deep-rooted mentorship and adding the value that we will bring onto the table, because we have mentors from within Marico, external mentors, rock star strategic mentors working with organizations. So that's pretty much what we would look for in any organization. We usually work with startups because I think it's very easy for me to define the 1 to 100 journey for a startup. It's very difficult for me to define that equivalent in a social enterprise, in an NGO. So we're figuring that out. Once we have the math for that, we would love to also work with NGOs. But at this point in time, we're largely working with startups because it's easy. The delta is easier to find.
Superb. You've already introduced the word for my next question, which is mentoring. So MIF provides mentorship to budding entrepreneurs. What are the 3 or 4 key areas that you focus on to help these entrepreneurs? There are plenty of budding entrepreneurs in our audience as well, who can benefit from some of the tips and that techniques that MIF uses to help.
I think it's a great question, and I have this huge problem with the word mentorship. I'll be honest with you. We use it. We call ourselves the Scale Up program is a mentorship program. I have a huge problem with this word mentorship because I think it's now being very loosely used by people. Just because I tell you to do something, it doesn't mean I'm mentoring. It means I'm telling you or I'm advising you. There's a huge distinction between advising and mentoring. And I think the first thing that startups should understand is the distinction between the two. A mentor is somebody who will not just tell you what to do, but how to do it, and how to see the end, how to assess the impact of the change in the business that you're doing, and how in future, if you face such a problem, how will you solve it without the mentor's problem, without the mentor's intervention? Is the mentor's journey with the organization. For example, if an organization comes to MIF and says, I do not know how to set up a manufacturing facility. So an advisor will say, you should find a place and you should make sure that your manufacturing facility is ISO certified, and you should make sure that it is top of the line. But the entrepreneur doesn't know what all this means, because he doesn't know how to make it ISO certified, how to make it top of the line. So if a mentor actually comes in and tells you, okay, let's identify the bare field. From the bare field, what is the best practice that manufacturing should have? Your truck should go in a particular way. There should not be too much of going up, coming in and out. There's a particular route map that the truck should have. What should your manufacturing line be like? How should we process in such a way? Where should your inventory be placed, and how close should we place to the specific line that you're getting into? Where should your emergency exits be? Where should your fire exits be? What should your ventilation be? How should you fix the line? How should your input and output look like? If the mentor tells you all that and works with you as you set up the manufacturing setup, and then tells you how to go about getting yourself ISO certified, tells you goes about how to get yourself, the other principles of manufacturing. And then the next time you have such a problem, you want to expand your manufacturing setup, you want to build another setup in another part of the country, you know pretty much what you should do. You don't need to come back to an MIF or to any mentor for that. And I think that's what MIF does. When we go into a problem, we try not just telling you what to do, but also how to go about doing it, how to assess that you're in the right direction, close the challenge, make sure that that it's done and dusted, and you see the impact, because you know that before, if it's a quality problem, you had X percentage, products which are getting spoiled. If you can bring that down to 0.0003%, you know that you've done the impact. So there's a before and after in everything, that every mentorship should do that. And that's what we do. Our focus is purely on, you came into us with this knowledge, can we help you with that knowledge? It could be deep-rooted mentorship, which goes on for 9 months. It could also be smaller mentorships. Like I was looking at my portfolio and we realized a lot of my entrepreneurs did not know how to do budgeting. Yeah. And so what they were budgeting and it's simple. And all you have to do is, and we're Marico. At Marico, budgeting is our DNA. And I get what they're saying. It's the second year of operations or the first year of operations. You don't know what your baseline should look like. How do you go about? We do that with NPDs at Marico, right? So having a workshop, bringing in 10 entrepreneurs with the same problem, telling them exactly what to do, how to do it, and then working with individual entrepreneurs on their budgeting is what another form of mentorship that we do at MIF. And I think if to summarize, I think a mentor's job is to be the partner of the startup and not just an advisory. There are advisors. Then you be very clear an advisor and not a mentor. But if you're a mentor, you have to roll your sleeves and make sure that the problem you're trying to solve is solved.
Wonderful. In fact, that's so amazing, because that means you customize it, you understand it completely, you figure out, you give the inputs, you identify people who can help. So it's a very, very intense process. And
very intense, so very scientific. Very scientific. And I'd also like to add that a lot of, since you said that a lot of startups and a lot of budding entrepreneurs and watching us, I think that's a very important thing, to have somebody to figure out your functional efficiency. But I also think it's important to get the right strategic mentor. A strong strategic mentor that's not telling you to go someplace because they're invested in you, but telling you to invested in your business, but telling you to go someplace because they believe in your idea and they're invested in your business and in your idea from a emotional point of view is very valuable. So a lot of our mentors that we have don't fund any of these organizations. They're just strategic mentors, guiding the entrepreneur in their journey. Don't A lot of entrepreneurs want to do everything. So don't do everything. Do 3 things. Do what is core to your business. Basic principles of business, but reinforcing that time and again is also very, very important.
So interesting you say that. And, I would request our audience to kindly put in the chat box any questions that they would like to ask Priya, and our team will read it out to you. My final question to you, Priya, is that mistakes, failures, learnings are a part of an entrepreneur's journey. Is it okay to make a mistake? How do we bounce back? And what about the conducive environment? Does it exist or not in case you fail in this sector? So your views on that.
So Shital, when we were younger, I think there was no room for error. There was no room for failure. And I think that's, the biggest problem our generation has faced.
Yeah.
Though I think we were willing to try things out, but that fear of failure was so there. For example,
so high and so deep.
Yes. For example, when I moved from marketing to this role, I had a CMO role waiting for me, and I didn't take that role for this. And it was a lot of my peers said, "Are you crazy? That's your
that's your
calling.
Path.
That's your path.
Why?
Why aren't you going there?" I was like, no. So very few of us had that chance to try different things out and try. Yeah. I think today I see a lot less failure word being used, because I think this is something that I'm picking up from Mr. Mariwala. You work with them for 8.5 years, you get influenced so much by him. He says, either you succeed or you learn. And I think that is what I'm seeing today. I see that with the team. I see that with the youth. I see that with entrepreneurs. I see that, look at the news today. You don't see failures. You see, trying again. You see, they've stopped, it's not working out, and they'll come back again. And, you'll find a lot of optimism with entrepreneurs saying that we'll come back again. It's okay. It's not a big deal. I think that is fantastic. So I think there is definitely room for learning, and there's no such thing as failure. I think mistakes, there's a huge difference between mistakes and failure. I think mistakes we should be very cognizant of not making mistakes, and learn from our mistakes and make sure we don't repeat that. But I don't think there's something called failure. And I'm really happy to see that I'm seeing more and more of that mindset of learning, and it's okay, we've done it hasn't happened, let's try something else, which was earlier a very
the fear of failure, what will people say
I don't see
that. Guilt, all of that. There were so many emotions attached to that. But I think that's wonderful that, as a country, as a society, we are moving away from that.
At least that's what I'm seeing. I don't know, maybe, everybody will have their own vision, but my vision, keeping the entrepreneurs that I'm working with, and, we try something, they say, it hasn't happened yet, it's okay. And my team will be like, oh dear, it hasn't happened. Yeah, that's fine. We'll figure it out. I love that. I think optimism is a very important thing. Is a very important facet that I'm seeing today with entrepreneurs.
That's so interesting that optimism is also very creative, because it is an essential part of innovation and creativity as well.
Correct.
If you live with fear of failure, there's no way that you can see any kind of innovation or any kind of creativity. Okay, so one final question to you. Your one piece of advice to the rising stars in this sector, or to the entrepreneurs in the who are a part of our audience. Your one piece of advice to them, Priya.
Okay, so I think a lot of the people over here, from what I've heard, what I've looked at your past sessions, I think a lot of them are coming from the social sector.
Yeah.
And I think they already know where they want to go, and they already have their purpose. A lot of them are figuring out, or they know that they wish. This generation talks a lot about purpose as compared to us. We're talking about it now. They've talked about it long ago, right? So I think there's a lot of purpose-based conversations that I'm seeing happen. And I think it's fantastic. And I think you should stay purposeful and ensure you go in your purpose. But in case you need to pivot because your purpose has changed, or, you have to try something different because you're seeing there's a change in the whole thing, I think you should move in the direction that takes, and not just get stuck because you've decided that this is your purpose, or decided that this is your direction. Be malleable, because because change is the only constant, and this is something that I've lived by. And when 20 years, so that's the only thing I've been telling myself. Change is the only constant. And so, how do you stay true to yourself despite the changing environment? Whether it's COVID, not COVID, how do you change? How do you keep be true to yourself despite the changing environment is something that I think people who already know their purpose should look at. And for those who haven't figured out their purpose, it doesn't matter. Do what you like doing. Do what you enjoy doing.
What you enjoy doing. Super,
trust
wonderful.
Me, it'll add significant value to the country and to the economy and to yourselves and to your family.
Superb. So malleable, flexible, adaptable, all those wonderful words. We will have spotlight on Adya of Third Sector Partners, who has a very interesting question and would like to ask you. So can we have the spotlight on Adya, please? Could we have the spotlight on Adya, please? Yeah, hi, Adya.
Hi, Priya. Thank you so much for all the thoughts that you've put. There are a lot of thoughts to think about more on. I was just wondering that we've spoken about the scale-up approach, right, with Marico Innovation Foundation. Something a little different on those aspects. Want to get into sectoral programs that you would recently sort of gotten into during COVID and before that in 2018. Which are the new segments that you feel soon would need attention, as part of the social sector or any other sector, just aspects of the society? And does Marico Foundation have a future plan of sort of getting into a new sectoral program just because it needs that attention? So just
they're a fantastic question, and this is like my marketing spiel right now, right? So when I spoke to Shital about MIF, I spoke about the scale-up program because the question was on the scale-up program. And when we were chatting, I spoke about the awards because at that time we were discussing that before the session began. But the third thing that we do at the foundation is sectoral interventions. And our philosophy on sectoral interventions is that there are sunrise sectors where innovation is beginning to happen, or you could see little buds of innovation happening, but the ecosystem is not in place. The funding is not in place. The government is still not very sure of what needs to be done. It's not a mature sector. For example, in 2018, when we launched the Innovate to Cultivate program, where we work with AgTech innovations for solving some of their challenges, there were just maybe 2 or 3 funders in the ecosystem, and a lot of the organizations were still being incubated, etc. Very few had proof of concept, and we were supporting them in that journey with Bilgo and a few other organizations. And recently, I saw an article a few weeks ago which said that perhaps the next set of unicorns will come from the AgTech sector, which means that from 2018 to 2022 is a 4 to 5 year journey where a sunrise sector probably starts getting mature and starts getting all the support that it gets, right? And that is our agenda. Our agenda is to find the sunrise sectors and work with the sector for about a couple of years before we go ahead and give the sector. Now, we don't work with we work with Agri as part of our scale up, but we're not putting our energies to create a program to support that sector. The same thing with it in 2020, when everything was dried up and people were going crazy, but there was no funding, etc. We decided to come in with the COVID challenge, right? And we found ventilators that were required. So currently this year, we're looking at plastics. Because that's a huge problem. Again, no more than about 80 to 100 entrepreneurs that are trying to do something. Some of them, I'm sure, will fail because they're probably not doing the right thing. And so it's our job as the foundation's agenda is to nurture and play a catalytic role. So how do you play that catalytic role? We don't do anything ourselves. Right. We try and get things done with people, right? Either we collaborate. So we're coming out with a plastic report, followed by the next 18 months of working with the entrepreneurs to see how we could support them by getting them to work with corporates or with the government or with the investing world. The plastic investing is hardly a percentage as compared to some of the other developed sectors and compared to other international benchmarks that we have done. So plastic is one thing we're looking at. We're already identifying sectors. Again, look, I'm coming in from the innovation lens, right?
Correct, yes.
And so even societal changes will have their innovation lens. So there are so many districts in the country that are doing things so innovatively, and they're not even being showcased. Like Kunur is a great example. Indore is a great example.
Yes.
Sikkim, we know. Sikkim, everybody knows. But there are, Pune, probably a lot of people know. But there are smaller districts in the country that are doing great work in innovation. How do we showcase them? So that the report will cover a lot of these best practices. And then we'll see how we could disseminate that and work with the innovation in that sector. Air pollution is another place. Ocean management, ocean recovery is a third place that I think that we will find some innovations coming in. I think environment is going to be a very important thing. Of course, there will still be great innovations coming in from agri, from medical, from education. That will continue. Correct. But I think the new sectors, the exciting sectors where, the VC world is still not looking at is what I'm talking about. And I promise it'll be very exciting. The next 5-6 years are going to be really exciting in it and energizing.
It sounds
from an innovation lens. I mean, there's a lot of hard work. They're doing the hard work. I'm sitting and having this bird's eye view saying, "Arey wah, badhiya hai."
No, great. That's a very good thought.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Priya. Thank you, Adya. We have one more very interesting question from Anjali Hari of the Catalyst team. So yes, could we please have the spotlight on Anjali?
Hi, good evening. Good evening, everybody. Hello, Priya. It was just wonderful hearing you. I love your energy and I want to imbibe it. So, looking through the innovative lens, of course, Catalyst is a very innovative program also. And interestingly, Marico's CSR vision aligns with our vision also, which is building women leaders. We want to explore opportunities to collaborate with Marico. And what are your views on this?
You've hit a sore spot with me, and I'm going to be really ashamed and embarrassed because, as MIF, we're a largely women-dominated team. I mean, Shital is same. We just have maybe one. Now, Shital, we have 2 male members, but it's usually just one male member for the diversity angle. But we've never managed to work with women entrepreneurs. And I don't know why. Maybe... And I take the blame for it myself. I think it's largely because we're not maybe finding them. We're not going to the spaces where they are placed. We're not maybe, our communication is not talking to them. There's something that we're not doing right. And this is the year that I would like to really, call it out as something that we've been failing on, and we should figure out a way of solving for it. And as a team, we're working on seeing how we could find women leaders and women entrepreneurs to work with. I can't believe that women entrepreneurs are not innovative. It cannot happen. I don't think we're finding them. And so I'd like to do anything and collaborate with anybody and do anything it takes to find entrepreneurs in our ecosystem. Shital, last year we had this conversation with the awards, and it's abysmal. And I spoke to one of our governing council members who's a woman, and she's creating this woman incubation. And I was telling her, what is going wrong with us? What do we do? And she said, maybe your outreach is a problem. You're not finding things in the place you should. And, Anjali, happy to brainstorm with you, with anybody who's willing to give me that space of time to see how I could work with them.
Definitely.
It's something that I'm personally very passionate about, and something that I haven't succeeded so far. It's a personal goal for myself.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you so much. And yes, I'm sure Anjali will contact you. And Sakshi, any questions from the audience that has been not answered?
Sure.
Anything in the chat box?
Yes, Shital, we do have one question here. So, Priya, the question is, what is the most difficult part of being a leader? And as you rightly said that, change is the only constant. So how one should lead through change?
I'll answer the second question first because that's the easier one. I think it's easy to lead with that mindset if you don't go into a room thinking you know everything. And I've learned this from Mr. Mariwala. If you go to a room, if you have a meeting with him on MIF, he will bring me into the room and he'll ask me, what do you think? And he'll tell you that she knows her subject matter because she knows MIF better than I do. And I think that's amazing. So if I can do that with my team, saying that, hey, Varun, scale up program better than me. What do you think? I can direct you. I can give you insights because I have more gray hair and I have got more years of experience. But the person who's immersed in the business knows the business the best. The person in the sales team knows the sales better than you as a leader, you as an entrepreneur, as somebody sitting on the CEO desk. And so if you're able to believe that, that person can add value, and you go into the room saying that, I don't know anything. Why don't you tell me? And that's one thing that I do. The second thing that I do is I don't try and answer a problem question. I question back, saying, what do you think? Because for all they have the answers, and they're not thinking enough, or they're not sure of the answer. And so when you go in with that, when you go in with the perspective of trying to figure out collectively a solution, you end up taking that's the lead that's the impression you're giving people, that it's okay, you don't know something, you're figuring things out. Every time I go into a meeting, I say, just because you've done something so far, it doesn't mean we have to go in that way. So every year awards is, every time we do the awards, or every time we're always reinnovating, reinventing the scale up program, the awards, the sectoral intervention. In fact, within Marico, we call Ninja Turtles, because we're always mutating. We're always, becoming different. We're changing. We're revamping. And I think that can only happen if a leader does that. If a leader believes that, whatever she has created is not the be all and the end all and the mother of all, right? Whatever she's created was great at that moment, but needs to change and evolve through time. So that is
wonderful, super.
That is my second answer.
Yeah.
But what is the first question? I couldn't get the first question.
Sakshi, can you just repeat the first part?
Yes,
the first part.
Yes. So it's, what is the most difficult part of being a leader?
I think leadership is fun. I mean, if either you like it or you don't. So there are people who don't like to lead because they like to do things, and I think that for them is a tough problem. I admit that I love doing nothing, so I empower people, right? But I think from a leadership point of view, I think empowerment is important, is very difficult. And this is something I faced initially, where I would empower, and so empowerment means delegation with responsibility. And I think when we delegate even the responsibility. And I think that is a big learning that I've had. And I think that is something that, if you're able to figure out how to delegate and yet be responsible for the program or the project or the person, I think it's a great journey. I love mentoring and, seeing people change, and it's a great journey. I don't think.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you so much. Wonderful. You're so open to listening, and innovation and ideas can come from even the junior most of people, and so much energy, enthusiasm, passion. On that note, we've run out of time, but not out of questions. And thank you so much, and a big thank you to our audience for joining in today. And thank you, Priya. We have enjoyed every minute of this conversation. And wishing everybody all the best. Stay safe, stay healthy, and looking forward to seeing you at the next session. On that note,
thank you so much for inviting me. It was an amazing conversation. I loved our tete-a-tete, Shital. It's always fun chatting with you and your team.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.